Hey guys, welcome to today's video. I wanted to do a little segment on wet sanding and try to help you first timers out and realizing it's not really as scary as it seems. The guys that have done this before, you'll realize that after you do it the first time, it's really not that bad. I will say that machine wet sanding is actually safer, and pardon the street sweeper out there, but the machine wet sanding is safer than doing it by hand. Now, the reasons are that will distribute even pressure on the panel, and so you can't make gouges as easy. Like when you're going with your little block here, you can't make gouges, okay? That's something for the people that are gonna do it by hand. You need one of these blocks. It doesn't need to be a Meguiar's like this. I mean, you can use any kind of block you want. It just needs to have a soft foam pad on the bottom to kind of absorb some of them pressure points you're trying to use. You can't use a flat block, or I shouldn't say a flat block. You can't use a totally stiff, rigid block because there's almost no straight panels on a car. They're always a little bit of a contour. So if you have just a little bit of a foam soft block, it will go to the contour of your panel, thus creating equal pressure and not scratching with the sandpaper. Alright, first things first. I already told you about the block. That's kind of a need. And second, since this is mostly a do-it-yourself kind of video, a lot of people aren't going to want to buy specialty tools, which is why I say just anything with a foam bottom. And so I bought just some regular sandpaper. This is an assortment off of Amazon. It's like a 70-piece set. I think it was like $20-some, and it's pretty cheap. You don't need 70 pieces, but I figured it doesn't hurt to have sandpaper to burn through. No pun intended. Now you're going to want to start, well, I like to start with no less than 1,000 grit, because if you go any deeper than that, it's really hard to get the scratches out without taking off all of your clear. And that could be a very big problem because you don't want to go through your clear. And after 1,000, personally I like to start at 1,500 because most cars aren't really that bad, and 1,500, believe it or not, it does take it down pretty fast. Okay, now after you're done with 1,000, 1,500, whatever you decide to go with in that range, could be higher, and I wouldn't suggest going lower, but you can. But after that, I like to take a jump in about 1,000 grit increment. So if I start with 1,500, I want to go to 2,500. And the most of the work is already done with your first step. The second step is mainly for leveling out whatever grit you started with. And you'll start to see shine start to come back through it with 2,000, 2,500. And after that, if you only go to 2,000, now it can be polished out from there, or buff and polished, but boy do I not recommend it. It will take you forever, and you will regret it, and I promise you. So do yourself a favor, do at least 2,500, and my book, I like to go to 3,000. That's a lot easier to clean it up, and it's faster to sand it down with 3,000 than it is to stop at 2 and try to buff it out. Because I promise you, you could buff forever and there will still be a scratch somewhere. Alright, I'm sorry for the poor camera, and the quality is good, but it doesn't like to focus on these scratches. They're just kind of hard to video. But this is my car. You can see how it's reflecting everywhere. This is very, very, very scratched. You can't really tell on camera. And this is a little spot I didn't wet sand. I wish I could show you the orange peel. You can kind of see it in the light there. And then over here, this is wet sanded. You can tell with the shine of the light that it just looks a lot better. It doesn't reflect in 100 different directions. And that's kind of what we're going for. Alright, as I'm sitting here, I can kind of see, you can see the difference in the lights. If you look at that one right there, the clarity of it versus this one, right over there is well, that's almost the section that's wet sanded. It's right on the verge, and this is the part that we're about to do. So, water is essential in keeping dust down, and it helps in not quite cutting as fast. So, just wet down the panel. This is just a little sprayer I got. And then don't forget to spray your sandpaper. Now they say it needs to be approved for wet sanding and all that. Don't listen to them. Doesn't really matter. And when you do this, you're going to want to do straight lines. Okay? You can also crosshatch like this is okay. As long as it's straight lines, you'll be fine. Okay? Whatever you do, you don't want to sit here and go in circles, because they are very hard to remove with a buffer if you happen to cut very deeply. I'll just do this a couple more times. Make sure you go in all directions. So if you crosshatch just this way, make sure you go back the other way. Or if you do just straight lines. If you do just straight lines this way, make sure you do straight lines this way. Okay? Now the reason for that is to help get rid of any scratches that are coming from just that one direction. We're going to do it one more time. You can kind of feel it when it starts getting dry. When it starts getting a little dry on you, just give it another spurt of water. Another reason for the water is it actually helps to keep the sandpaper from loading up, so it's more of a straight finish. And I know you guys can't feel this, you might be able to hear it, but it's starting to glide better, which means the paint is getting flatter. All this white stuff you're seeing is actually clear coat coming off. Yeah, might be a little scary to some of you. Some of you already know that it's not a big deal. Alright, this is what it's going to look like after your first step. And don't be alarmed, it will come out. Just needs more sanding. Try to put a little light on it. Now what you're looking for when you do this, you can kind of see here a little bit in the corner, is the orange peel will actually not be sanded, and the places that are high will be sanded. Now this whole panel actually looks pretty good, or the spot I'm doing anyway looks pretty good. You can see it's pretty evenly coated, and you could get a little bit flatter, but I don't want to take off all my clear, so we're gonna go. You can see right there, that little spot, that is not sanded because that is a little dent. I'm not going to try to take that out, because if I do, I would burn around all of the clear around it, and that's not good. So we're going to take our next step to 2500. Rounded 2500, and you can kind of see the little crosshatch, and so it's kind of what we got to get rid of. Again, you're going to want to start with water and wet your paper and just go after it again. Now, something I will say about buying just random sandpaper is the sandpaper that you'll get from like Meguiar's to go with this block will fit the block a lot better, but I mean you can make anything work, so it's not a huge crucial thing. It's just something to keep in mind. Again, lubricate as necessary. when you start getting a lot of this clear coat buildup, you're going to want to spray a little more often, just because there's little chunks of clear in there that can scratch a little bit deeper in the sandpaper. I wouldn't really be worried about it too much, but it's something that can happen. Alright, let's clean that off and see what we're left with. Alright, after that step, you should be able to tell it's starting to come back with a shine just a little bit. Now remember, the first step did all the leveling. The second step was to take out everything that the first step did. Now this third step may not be necessary to some, but it just makes life easier, so I like to do it. And something else I forgot to mention. Stay away from edges as much as possible. They level a lot faster, which is great, but they also burn through a lot quicker then. So if you can, like this edge here, if you can, save it for the end so you can just kind of touch it just once, just to see how fast it goes. And that way you can kind of monitor so you don't sand more than you have to, I guess, there. Alright, we're just going to go straight to 3000 now. The first step was 1500, second step was 25, and this is 3. This will help take out anything that the 2500 put in. Just, again, water is your friend. And you're going to want to continue the same cross hatch. I like to fold these edges up just so you don't get any stray sanding marks. Now with this 3000, you can really feel how smooth this paint has become from the first 2 steps. And something else, you don't want to be pushing so hard that you're like pushing in the hood. Like here, if you can push down on it, you don't want to be pushing that hard on the panel, because that's when you leave gouges. So you just want to just a light push. I mean, firm but not hard, if that makes sense. Alright, now that you've gotten to this point, you're at the fun part. You want to break out your buffer. Now you can see after the first pass, it's even already back at its shine. And this camera is very bad for showing clarity, but there are still scratches in it. And one thing I will tell you is it is very, very common for your pad to load up after buffing where you just wet sanded, because all of the clear coat is still kind of just lingering around, per se, and the buffer is pulling all that out and it all gets stuck in the pad. So don't try to buff the entire car with a loaded pad, because you'll just be scratching it and you won't really be doing much to it. And after that, it is borderline perfect. Now if I get really close to the light, you can probably pick out a couple scratches here and there. I can see one right here. But don't be alarmed. Polishing should take out whatever is left. A lot of the scratches will still be left over from your buffing pad. So you could keep trying to buff them, but it's not really going to help you, just because that's what they're there from. Alright, and as you can see, back to that result, you can see the line of where I started and stopped. I wish it showed up better with the clarity, because in person you can see all the LEDs in that light, and here they all kind of blend together. Over here where I did it, you can see LEDs again. But I hope that helped you out. If it did, leave a like. Any questions, don't be afraid to ask in the comments. I'll answer all of them I can. And until then, subscribe. We'll have another detailing video coming out tomorrow about one stage buffing. Have a good day.